Hey there, folks. Welcome back to the Overflow. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, and I still don't have the coronavirus.
No, but he does have a nasty cough, so if you see Hatman
Yeah.
turning to the side and muting himself, that's why.
Yep.
So, fun times all around. But there are fun
Yeah.
times, though. We have an announcement. Well, I have an
Oh.
announcement.
Oh.
My announcement is that I am finally at a point where I can be a full time writer, as I have wanted to do since I was like 18. So basically, 18, well, not 18, 16 years of laboring through jobs that I really didn't like that much or had to be just kind of okay with. Except for the factory work, oddly enough. I liked working in a factory. But to finally being a full time writer. Now, some of you are probably asking, Micah, Englewood only made about $13,000. How exactly are you going to be able to do this full time? Well, it's not from the profits from Englewood, because I didn't make a profit on Englewood.
Hmm.
Because we fucked up with the shipping and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my fault. But no. I am going back to work as a journalist. I have been offered a job where there's a 2-day trial date. So by the time people see this, I'll have already been. You'll probably have already seen where my byline's at. But I'm just gonna say who it's for. It's for RT.com, formerly known as Russia Today. So I am officially now a Russian bot. No, I'm kidding. But no, they wanted me to come on as a technology and games journalist. So I'm coming back to that realm after a bit of a hiatus. So that is intriguing to say the least. I'm excited about it. I've already talked with my editor. They pretty much do not care what my political views are. They're not going to get involved with this podcast. I told them right out of the gate that it's going to stay independent alongside my YouTube work. It's mine and mine alone, which they're fine with.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just on top of all of it, I'm going to be, journalisming for a major website and getting paid quite nicely for it as well. So, those of you in the audience are probably wondering, well, what does that mean for the podcast? What does that mean for other stuff? Not really that much. Like I said, they don't have any control over what I'm doing. So I am going to be, just basically doing my thing with them for what they pay me to do. But that money is going to allow me to stay home and to work on other writing, to work on the podcast, to work on videos, giving me a lot more spare time, you know? And what this also means is that I am not grounded to Illinois anymore. If I can get the money saved up, I can finally move to North Carolina, where Hatman and I can finally make ourselves a proper studio and kind of do what we wanted to do 2 years ago with this podcast. There's also one thing that we need to celebrate really quick.
Hmm?
1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys, by the way. We are going to probably, after we get done recording this, sort out what we want to do with the monetization process. We're already under review for it. Usually the review process does not take that long. They look to see if you've gotten like any community strikes or anything like that. We haven't. We've had a couple of like copyright warnings, and that's about it. We did have one copyright battle, but we ended up winning it, so it wasn't that big of a deal. So I think we'll get approved, and yeah, we'll go from there on what we're gonna exactly do with it, because we don't want to basically upset the way that things are working for the podcast. We don't want people to feel like they are, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Being ostracized by any sort of money that's being brought in. So yeah, that is the plan. Hatman, any thoughts?
Hmm. Um, I fully expect every single video of ours to be demonetized by my overuse of the word fuck.
Mm, that just means it'll be age restricted, not
Yeah.
necessarily demonetized.
Fuck
But
them kids.
I know, right? All right, let's go ahead and get into the Overflow stuff. Um, or should I say, let us begin Overflow, comrade. I'm going to be making a lot of Russian jokes in the future. Because you know from now on, that's going to be everybody's main criticism to try to deflect my arguments. Is, well, he works for Russia. Well, no, I work for my editor, who works for a Russian website, but I'm not bought and paid for. I'm an Israel supporter. That's not changing. And obviously the Russians aren't that keen on Israel. By the way, the publication knows my thoughts. I'm basically going to be in the sort of position that Greg Gutfield was in whenever he worked for the Huffington Post, which a lot of people forget happened. Sometimes websites hire the token person who has like the dissenting opinion on one little thing or another, and I'm just that guy. Not to mention Sophia Narwitz works for them too. Sophia worked for Niche Gamer when I wrote for Tech Raptor, so like it's not she's not that type of person that would like sell out her everything to the Russians for a few dollars. It's not how it works these days. So, not to mention, like, nothing I'm going to be discussing has anything to do with Russia. It's video games and technology. So, anyway. Hatman, as always, I will let you pick our starting point. Politics or entertainment?
Let's get politics out of the way, because I don't want to talk about politics for a while.
Okay, that's understandable. One thing that we are going to have to say is we do have a lot of questions this week. So, some of you have kind of asked questions that have very quick answers, so we're going to give them quick answers, just so you know. So just don't think that we're dismissing you or anything, but we're getting popular to the point where we're actually not quite sure what to do with this in the future. So.
Yeah. Also, a couple of you are still sending questions to my email. We're retiring that. So questions to email and to Twitter, we can't handle that load. It's just going to be way, way, way too many of them. So unfortunately, like if you miss the podcast, the only way that you can get a question in is to the patrons Discord, which it's $1. I mean,
yeah.
Come in, post memes with us, talk about how I still need to watch JoJo and stuff. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you can get your question in.
Not to mention, and Hatman can tell you guys this, I am in there a lot talking to people, and I listen, and I always respond whenever people have questions for me and stuff like that. You get a lot for $1.
Yeah, he's in it more than I am at the very least.
Yeah, like
I'll pop in on occasion for the routine shaming. So
not to mention, and this is another thing, is that if you throw in $5, whether it be through Patreon or through Subscribestar, you also get access to the VIP area, and I'm doing exclusive streams every single month for that group of people, where I also, aside from doing a long Q&A, which you could get questions in where you might miss them during the show, on top of that, you can also get basically early access to some of the pages that get completed on comic book projects and things like that. So, because we did a spoilerific stream with Brian, our artist on Englewood, that showed all of the pages up until like the end of the first part of the book. So, that's something to keep in mind. Anyway, enough shilling. So, politics, the first question that we've got is, do you, Koopa's Revenge Home says, did you see the Bernie Bro going slash Republican throats yet? Yes, and this is just something I'm going to say in general about these guys, is Project Veritas has exposed that Bernie's fan base is a bunch of, wannabe revolutionaries. It wouldn't surprise me if at some point in the future James O'Keefe uncovers that there's some sort of tie to Antifa. In which case, again, Trump needs to declare them a domestic terrorist group. That's the end of it. That needs to be squashed.
Yeah. I don't care if they don't have any sort of central leadership or foundational document, there are enough cells with common ideology that it could be discerned as a terrorist organization.
Not to mention again the manifesto book that Hatman read for us. Um,
Unintentionally funding domestic terrorism.
yeah, the
Mm.
their whole goal is revolution, to overthrow the United States. That is
Overthrow all world states and expropriate everything.
yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-mm.
Physics Hypernova wants to know: with the failure from the Dems this week, do you think Trump will curb stomp them, a la 1972 or 1984?
No.
I think it's going to be pretty divided. I could see it
Yeah.
probably playing about the same as the last election did.
You have enough people that are vote blue no matter who, that will hold their nose and bite their tongue even if it's a candidate they don't like just because they want not Trump.
Yeah, pretty much. Aunt's Whisperer wants to know: there is a research center dedicated to the science of cracks? Thoughts? Unless they are researching
Cracks?
booty, I don't care. Waste of government funding.
Yeah. I think that's all that needs to be said.
Yes. KalaBagu wants to know: speaking of Virginia, did you hear about the tyrannical governor trying to pass legislation that prohibits Virginia citizens from criticizing him and the government?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's against the First Amendment. So it
Oh
seems
yeah.
like he's trying to rip up the Constitution. Good
Well,
luck with
it
that.
wasn't. It's criticism that can be, if I understand it correctly, criticism that can be you or that can turn into hate speech, or that can entice people into committing hate crimes,
And that's the
which is
problem. How do you define hate speech?
exactly, it's absolutely retarded.
Yeah, it's sort of like assault weapon.
Yeah,
Like
I
how
mean
do
you
you
can't.
define assault weapon?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he just all the legislation that's been coming out that he's been putting his stamp of approval on, between the uh, up the threshold for recall elections, increase the term of the governorship, uh, change the election of governors to effectively be an electoral college like system. I mean, that's not stuff that you know people who aren't trying to maintain their power would do. I mean, that's some Emperor Palpatine shit.
Yeah.
Virginia, unfuck yourself. Boogaloo. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. Swordsman 100 says, "What are the chances of getting the House back and keeping the Senate?" Um, I would
50,
say it's
50,
pretty
50.
good.
I'd say 50-50. I think it's a toss up.
Yeah. Well, that's better than what the odds were, I think, before.
Yeah.
They
It on
they didn't really get a
it,
monumental like vote for the House when they got it back.
yeah. It was not the blue wave like they predicted.
Yeah. Not to mention we kept the Senate. Not only did we keep the
Exactly.
Senate, we gained seats.
Yeah. Um, honestly, I think it's going to depend on whether or not Trump makes it out of this one. If he wins, I think there's going to be greater potential to flip the House and maintain the Senate. If he doesn't, then I have a feeling that all three branches would be under Democrat control. Because remember, people are going to be voting in droves this time. This is not going to be an apathy year.
Yeah, that is very true.
It's yeah.
Now, again, the one thing that is consistently touted is that Trump can get people moving.
Mm-hmm.
He really can. And
Mm-hmm.
I think
Whether it's
that,
for him or against him.
yeah, and I think that whenever you see the rallies that he's doing, and you're going to see him doing even more and more of them, is that they keep people hyped up. And that's a good thing for your voting base. There's
Mm-hmm.
if he can get the big thing that helped him against Hillary Clinton is that the a lot of the union driven states flipped for him, and he got the Rust Belt, which shocked a lot of people because the Rust Belt has tended to be blue for a while. And if he can get it again, then he's good. I think that the thing about the Rust Belt is if Bernie is the nominee, the Rust Belt is a big question mark. If it's anybody else, it's not.
Yeah. If only because, ironically, socialist policies hurt the working class the most.
Yeah, but the unions don't give a shit because they know that they'd be in power. So. All right. Eclectic 1995 says, after looking up the concept of omnipotence, I came across conflicting definitions. So how would you define it? That a being is all-powerful, meaning that there are no limits on their abilities.
One limit. It has to be logically sound.
Yes.
The
omnipotence
idea
does not
of
mean that the ridiculous suddenly becomes not ridiculous.
Exactly. You can't make like a square circle, for example.
Yes. It does not mean that the laws that are set in place, that the foundations, that suddenly those foundations will just change for this deity, or that they would even choose to change them.
Yeah.
So, because that's another thing that needs to be mentioned, because it's always brought up whenever it comes to God, is that the character of God is never really discussed, because one would assume that if a deity is a living being, it's going to have a personality. It's going to have a conscience. It's going to have conscious thought. It's going to have purpose. And to throw those out as if it's just some, floating blob in the sky, or the supposed spaghetti monster that has no rules or sets no rules or did not create the universe in with the set of rules that have purpose to them, I think is basically you're just trying to be a sophist at that point. You're just trying to get people in gotchas and all this other stuff to maintain your own worldview. It's not it's patently ridiculous. It's not arguing in good faith is the term I'm looking for.
No, it's not.
All right. AlphaInCell says, opinion on the Korat Thailand shooting. I don't know anything about it.
Ex-soldier, I believe, killed something like 20 people.
Jesus.
Or he was either an ex-soldier or he was a current soldier that went rogue. As far as I'm concerned, it's another fuckface.
Yeah, that's basically it. Brian Gilmartin wants to know, what do you think of the idea of the coronavirus possibly being a bioweapon? When you play Resident Evil 6, you hammer the buttons and wiggle the sticks. His QTE is too fucking quick. I'm tired of pressing the analog stick. Just give me an option. Something to pick. No, hammer the buttons and wiggle the sticks.
Jesus Christ.
Resident Evil 6 is not real. It's probably not a bioweapon. Don't eat bats.
It's... I don't know. Because there was that report that said it may have originated with pangolins. And I'm like, what in the absolute fuck? That makes no sense.
Who ate a pangolin?
I have no...
Or who fucked and then ate a pangolin?
Idea. It doesn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever. So
that's
at this
unfortunate
point,
also because pangolins are awesome.
Pangolins are pretty fucking cool. But I don't fucking get it. So at this point, this is like any conspiracy theory can go.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with me and like armored animals, but they entertain me for reasons I still can't figure out. Like turtles and pangolins and armadillos. I think they're awesome. Anyway, enough of my weird love of animals. Sorry, I had to reset part of my desk here. Cheap IKEA shit. It's all made of driftwood.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, HardBoiled asks, what are our current predictions on who wins the Democratic nomination? My money goes on... Biden is kind of on the downturn. The establishment may abandon him and go with Buttigieg. Bernie is obviously the grassroots guy. Now, he's doing well in the early goings, but a person who has won the Iowa primary has not got the nomination, I think, in the last 10 years. Republican or Democrat. So, I don't think it's emblematic of how it will finish. Again, my prediction is that somebody will be there to be a John Kasich and divide the vote.
They're gonna fuck over Bernie. I think Bernie's gonna win a number of primaries and get delegates, but they're gonna contest it. I think you're gonna see a contested convention.
Yeah, again.
There's a lot of people talking about it now just because the DNC really does not want Bernie. And I am holding on to my prediction of they're going to throw Warren into it because they're expecting, they're going to fuck over Bernie. We know that much. Warren is the one person that they think is close enough to him in policy that she can capture that vote. They fucked up and blew their load a little bit early with the whole him being accused of sexism by Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
And a lot of goodwill was lost in that. But I think they figure, well, vote blue no matter who, and this will have a better result of actually getting people to vote for us this time as opposed to voting third party or staying home.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to backfire on them, honestly. But my prediction remains a Warren Abrams ticket. Because they're keeping Stacey Abrams around for far longer than need be. Somebody's promised her something.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The Supreme Atheist Intellect asks, opinion on 4 rare mountain gorillas being killed in Uganda from a lightning strike. My heart weeps for my gorilla brethren.
Storm, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Alex Kogan wants to know, would you say, I'll say that Obama was a fascist president of the United States with how he tried to control the economy, turn the IRS into his thugs, and push social justice? Yeah. He was definitely the most authoritarian president I think that we've ever really had.
Authoritarian, I wouldn't go as far as to call him a fascist.
Yeah.
But authoritarian for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Because remember, fascism, one of the key tenets of that is nationalism. And Obama was anything but. He was globalist. He's a globalist.
Yeah, the whole thing with Obama was he operated under, and still operates under, the idea that government in and of itself is a natural good. Which is idiotic, to say the least. Government is not a natural good. Government can be whatever you want it to be. It can be completely evil, or it can be completely benevolent. It depends on who's running it. No human institution is necessarily one thing or another. It's a tool. So, and you can use tools to do wonderful things, or we can use tools to do terrible things, like this knife right here. This is a knife that I use to cut vegetables, and spices and things like that. I use to crush garlic and, all that sort of stuff. Well, I could also use this to embed it in somebody's fucking face. That's just an example of what a knife is. A knife is a tool. It's not necessarily a weapon. It can be. So can a screwdriver. So can a gun. The government really isn't that different. It's just on a much larger scale. And to say that it is just sort of a natural good or a natural evil, I think is just incorrect. But either way, operating on that idea that it is a natural good is foolish and ignorant of history, and I think that he showed himself to be probably, if he isn't the worst president of all time, he's certainly up there in the top 10. So, he ran the government like a fucking mob operation. So, typical Chicago politician. Tyler Jorgensen wants to know, thoughts on cannibalizing the climate change movement for being too white? It is to laugh.
It's funny. It's funny.
Any advice about how to get a job from Nick White? Well,
Get lucky.
I wouldn't say that. These days the market is much better than it used to be when I was trying to get a job under the Obama or during the
Well,
Obama years.
well, it depends on your degree field. Getting one in mine is just about impossible unless you know somebody, or if you get lucky. I mean, I got lucky with my last job.
Yeah.
Literally, the stars aligned, and I even got my contract extended to the longest point that it could be. That was pure luck.
One thing
So
to mention is that, and this is my thing, is don't be so attached to one particular field. You know, I will freely admit I am absolutely shocked that out of nowhere I am getting back into writing full time. Actually, no, this is my first time writing full time now that I think about it. After chugging along for as long as I have. You know, sometimes, yeah, again, like the big career opportunities come out of nowhere. But he's asking about a job. Jobs are different, and that's why we gotta be honest with our terminology. Job is something that just pays the bills. In which case, find something that you think would be somewhat fun to do or somewhat fun to learn, or you can make it fun and apply for it. And then when you're in the interview, be honest. Like, I think making sandwiches sounds like fun. I would like to learn to make other cool sandwiches. That was one thing. Like, I worked at a pizza place once, and I just told him, I'm like, I always wondered what it would be like to make pizza homemade. And I'm like, from scratch. I'm like, I've always wanted to learn how to do it, and I never have. So I want to be paid to make pizzas because that sounds like fun, and I got the job. You know, when I worked at a candy factory, they asked me, it's like, why do you want to work here? I said, well, I really like the smell of sugar. I'm perfectly fine with it being up my nose all day. I love candy. I'm big and can lift heavy objects. Please hire me. And I got hired. And I loved that job. I missed that job, honestly. Like it's of all the blue collar jobs I've had, that was my favorite. Because what I did was I worked in this area called batching at a Hershey plant in Illinois. And what batching is there's these giant machines that make the insides of Whoppers. And I could never eat Whoppers again, which is okay. But, like, there's these
what about
giant
Impossible
bags of the
Whoppers?
ingredients that what I would do is I had a pallet guy who would bring in my materials, just these giant pallets, and he would just bring them up to the elevated level where my stuff where I was at, and just set them there for me. And then I would unload these giant or these 50-pound bags of material, just cut them in half, fold them up, and then let the ingredients spill into the machines. That was all I did for 8 to 10 hours a day, and I loved it. It was great exercise. I was in phenomenal shape. I put on, I think, like 15 pounds of muscle working that job. And yeah, not to mention I came home smelling like chocolate every day. My wife loved it. So, well, my now ex-wife, but she loved it. So, yeah, just find something that looks fun and apply for it. Like, hey, that looks fun. Can I get a job here? That's it. That's really
There
all
you
there
go.
is to it. You know, and even if it's not the most fun thing in the world, find ways to make it fun every single day. Because if you go in to a job every day with joy in your heart, it will make it that much easier to work there. I know people who work in fast food still that are relatives of mine that love it every day because they like to cook, and they love the people that they work with, and they go in, you know, with good spirits, and then things just get better. You just gotta work on that positivity, you know, and understand that it's a blessing to be able to have something that pays the bills, because there are some people out there that don't even have that. You know, always keep that in mind. So that would be my advice. Ugly Media wants to know, my family's putting one of my cats down, so I could use a prayer request there, but I just wanted to ask if pets go to heaven. I think so, honestly. There's no
Yes.
theological base for it, admittedly, but heaven is supposed to be paradise. And I couldn't imagine a paradise without any
Paradise.
pets.
paradise, and there is evidence of animals in heaven, at
Yeah,
least in the form of horses. But
yeah.
there's that's precedent.
Though now that I think about it, I'm gonna be surrounded by dogs and cats. That's so many pets in my life. That's gonna be crazy. So I look forward to it though, whenever that day comes. Hopefully it's later rather than sooner though. Life is becoming more enjoyable for sure. All right. Now we get to move on to entertainment. So, where to begin? Uh, John Whitesell wants to know thoughts on Onision Gate. The stuff with Chris Hansen
Onision,
investigating him and Onision wearing a bulletproof vest backwards.
Onision,
Whatever.
the onion boy. Well, first off, fuck him because we do not take kindly to people who groom underage girls here.
Yes. So yes, that definitely gets an good old fashioned fuck 'em.
Hmm.
Fuck them.
By the way, real quick aside, I finally saw Last Blood.
What'd you think?
It was fun. That was a fun fucking movie. I love Rambo in general.
The end of it, the end of it though. Some of those kills were just absolutely fucking badass.
Oh yeah, like we were descending into like reverse slasher territory there. I loved it.
Oh yeah, no, the Kanoing that one guy at the very end.
Oh
Holy
yeah,
shit, that was badass. That
I
was badass.
I love Stallone, and now he's Comicsgate, which is even better.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that he shows up at the convention next year, just so I can get a photo with him.
it'd be nice.
My
It'd be
my dad
nice.
would be pretty pleased because my dad's a huge Stallone fan. So, but anyway, back on
But
the dipshit.
yeah, back on
No,
Onion
if
Boy.
he's guilty of this stuff, I hope he goes. I hope he goes away for a long time.
Yeah, well, there's a ton of evidence on him. I mean, this go back to like years. There's there's people that's been saying like, hey, why wasn't he busted for this shit a long time ago? Because it had gotten out by then. But his fan base is primarily composed of, you know, teenage and preteen girls.
Yeah,
So, naturally they would defend him. But this is a dude who once like ran a forum where, you know, underage girls would send pictures of themselves, in their underwear or otherwise scantily clad for him to rate their bodies.
yeah, that's creepy as fuck.
That is fucked up. And God bless Chris Hansen for jumping on this shit. I hope Onion Boy gets put away, and I hope before he gets put away, YouTube takes his fucking channel down because that is a meltdown I would pay to see.
Yeah, that would be good shit to say the least. All right, Tom the Fish says best and worst magic system. I'm assuming he means just magic, not Magic the Gathering. If it's Magic the Gathering, I don't fucking clue. I got no fucking clue.
That's definitely magic because it doesn't make any sense even from a Magic the Gathering perspective.
All right, so what is the worst magic system I've ever seen? Um,
Probably Aragon's for me because it doesn't really follow any rules aside from um, you have to say it in like the ancient language of what you want it to do, and it just varies from person to person. There's no real like training aside from just saying the word and like feeling the feelings, and it was stupid. It was stupid. Did not like it. I watched that movie again recently, and it's way worse than I remember. I don't like Erica, in
Yeah.
case you guys didn't know.
I think from a storyline perspective, I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy VII's.
Mm.
This is also a true criticism of 8 because they don't really explain it. They don't explain how crystallized things from the life stream allow you to summon giant fucking dragons or light things on fire with your brain. Like it's not really that well explained. From a gameplay perspective, from the mechanical perspective, it's actually very deep and there's a lot of different things you can do with it that are really cool. But with that said, it's definitely not without its problems. Um, I would say that yeah, Final Fantasy 7 and 8 both have that problem because it's just very poorly explained if it's explained at all. And then for best,
I don't know. I don't know what would be the best.
I think that I really like the Marvel Comics one of the idea that it's a naturally occurring energy that is harnessed from other dimensions.
Mm.
And that it's tied to like several dark gods and what have you, and you're basically tapping into this naturally occurring energy that just emanates from them, like the Crimson
Yeah.
Bands of Sidorak, for example.
Mm. Mm.
Um, things like that. I'm definitely very intrigued by.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah,
think
because
for best?
normally I would say the Force, but I don't think I could, if only because the rules for it are kind of like sketch. You can have some people who are just naturally gifted and talented and can use it without even knowing, without much training. And that's cool and all, but it's barely explained aside from the whole midichlorians thing, which
Ugh.
even then, like that doesn't do much for an explanation. So honestly, I don't know what I could say the best one is. Um, if I could cheat, I would say plasmids, if only because they're extremely straightforward. It's not really magic, but it comes close enough, I think. Almost like the power of like harnessing magic for yourself and giving it to everybody. I like the way that um, I just like the concept of it, I suppose. That it's literally just an augmentation of yourself.
Yeah. The whole thing about magic, I think that from a literary perspective, is you kind of have to be comfortable with the fact that you're throwing in a MacGuffin,
Yeah.
and it's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but if you can make it fun, at least you've got that. So, let's
Yeah.
see here. Ooh,
God
this is a
bless you if
really
your
good one.
magic
This is
system
for
can play by
me.
its own rules.
Kale Bach wants to know which version of JoJo Part 3 do you prefer, the modern anime
Yeah,
or the
that's
OVA series? Okay, so the OVA series is actually how I got into JoJo. So, um, I will say this. I like, um, I actually do prefer the show to the OVA at this point, except for the battle with Dio. That is the only thing that I don't prefer. Um, is the battle with Dio in the OVA. I think showed off how much of a threat he really is and made him scary. Whereas the OVA, I'm not the OVA, the series, though truer to the manga, is very much having, in my opinion, a little bit too much fun with it. And for some reason, if it weren't for the voice acting, he doesn't really feel like as much of a bastard, you know? And that's generally my issue, because you watch the beginnings of JoJo, and Dio's a fucking prick. All the time. So, it's like, don't shy away from the fact that he's a fucking sociopath. You know? And I feel like the anime kind of did that. The OVA treats him like a fucking monster. And that's the way he should be. So, that's my thoughts on that. AlphaInCell says, thoughts on the recent controversy with MHA? Unit 731 was horrid. However, I think people are overlooking China's gross violation of human rights, i.e. re-education camps. I have no idea what that even all is.
I don't know either. Again, we don't watch
731? Like what the fuck be this?
That was the Japanese unit, if I'm not mistaken, was responsible for the rape of Nanking.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, AlphaInCell, when it comes to My Hero Academia, I don't know shit about it, honestly. In fact, there's another question that I'll answer here in a second in regards to that. But, yeah, that's a, I don't know. I really don't know. You'll have to tell us like more like what happened. So.
Oh no, 731 were involved in biological weapons and whatnot, human experimentation. That was not rape of Nanking.
Supreme Atheist Intellect wants to know, says Dan Houser is leaving Rockstar. Why do you think he left? I think the gaming landscape will never be the same. Yeah,
I have no idea.
That's big.
I have no idea.
Like the Hauser brothers are phenomenal. Like Dan Houser, I said for the longest time, could be considered, if he's not the best writer, he's one of the best writers in video games ever.
Mm.
Like, you look at his writing credits.
He wrote all the Grand Theft Auto games, didn't he?
He wrote every single Grand Theft Auto game. He wrote Bully. He wrote the Red Dead games as well.
Mm-hmm.
You think about this run here. From GTA 4, and then its expansions, to Red Dead Redemption, to Max Payne 3, and then GTA 5 and Red Dead 2. That's a lot of really good writing credit. Especially GTA 4 and Red Dead, I would say are two of the best written games of all time. You know, I think that they're not quite Chris Avellone level, because Planescape Torment is just, that and KOTOR 2's writing are just next level. You know, they're the subtext in those games alone is something that you could investigate for years. But Hauser is a phenomenal crime writer. He has a mind for it. And he can really do anything as a writer. He can write a story that comes across like a Tarantino film. He can write a story that comes across like a Scorsese film, which is what I would compare GTA 4 to. He could write something that would come across like a spaghetti western, which is what Red Dead Redemption is. And then he can write stuff that feels like a Michael Mann film if you look at GTA 5. Like, he is so versatile that I don't know what Rockstar without him is going to look like. I really don't. I do know that with him leaving, if he's just going to enjoy his millions upon millions that he's made, good for him. But I'm curious as to see what he's going to do next. Because he can literally do anything. Like he's so fucking wealthy at this point that he could just do whatever he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But that's definitely the end of an era. You know, if his brother is still there, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but because his brother's good too. But that they're definitely losing a huge name. He was probably, in my opinion, one of the best examples of like a libertarian in video games. Because he mocked both sides all the time in GTA.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, GTA 4, the Statue of Happiness, the face is Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. It's Hillary Clinton holding a cup of hot coffee.
Yeah. He fucking hates Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he became an American citizen specifically to vote against her. So, yeah. Jason South says, have you seen Hunter x Hunter? I think you would enjoy it, especially episode 131. Nope. Have not.
I haven't seen it.
Not really up my wheelhouse, to be honest with you. A lot of shonen stuff I'm not a huge fan of. Especially with kids. Like the only anime that features kids I can think of off the top of my head that I would say is like fucking incredible is Evangelion. Again, it's another one of those stories that has so many layers to it that it's so hard to even break down what makes it tick. We're going to do a Things I Love on it at some point, Hatman and I. We've been talking about it for ages because we both love that series. I don't think we would talk about Rebuild, though, in it. I think I want to wait till Rebuild is over.
Yeah, that's probably smart.
But no, the original Evangelion and then End is, I think it's brilliant. I think it's such a great deconstruction of the mecha genre.
What you can understand of it at the very least.
I have an understanding of it. Like but there's a lot. Again, there's so much to it, and on top of that, it has such well realized characters. You know, they're all so deceptive in the depth of them. Every single person that you are going to see in Evangelion has layer upon layer upon layer to them that, you know, you don't really, I don't know, it's all very deceptive. Nothing is what it seems in that show, and that's what I really love about it. Nothing is what it seems.
And that's the thing. People look at it really from a surface level a lot of the time. I mean, the biggest complaint is, well, Shinji is just a whiny little bitch. Like, he's suffering from depression. Like, there are deep-seated mental issues with him that you're not looking at.
Yeah, and the reason when you find out why he is the way he is, it all makes sense. You know, yeah, I understand he's not the most, like, he's no Amuro Ray. He's no Hiro
certainly
Yui.
not.
But he's not supposed to be. Not to mention...
He's not particularly likable either.
Yeah. But the big thing for, if nothing else, you've always got Misato. Who doesn't love Misato, honestly?
People who are offended at cleavage.
I suppose so. Alright. Angry Green Boss wants to know, how would you write a story involving classic monsters in fantasy, like Castlevania? Stay tuned for 3 Nights, 4 Days. And The First Servant. And
there you go.
And Project Lazarus. You'll see.
There you go.
You know, a lot of the how would you write stuff with me is starting to become, you're going to have to wait for the books to come out with me, to be honest. So people who are asking those questions, don't be surprised if that's the answer I give you.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to give them away.
Friday Night Dino Wars.
That's going to happen. We can probably get a writer for that. Or an artist for that.
Probably.
It'd be fucking great.
Jesus Christ. Friday Night Dino Wars.
It'll be a love letter to Texas. Um, let's see here. Autis Whisper wants to know opinion on Barnes and Noble race swapping characters on book covers to promote diversity and receiving backlash from the woke brigade. Don't play to the woke brigade. You
Yeah.
will never, ever, ever do the right thing.
Hmm. I think their intentions were something along the lines of we wanted to reimagine these with, you know, or characters of color, and it's especially hilarious because that's literally what all these reboots are doing. They're doing the same shit, but they got blasted for it because, well, why didn't you just promote writers of color instead? It
It's
just
never enough.
it's never enough. It is never ever enough.
Do not base business decisions on woke Twitter. Don't do
No,
it. It never turns out well.
get woke, go broke. So far, there has not been evidence to the contrary.
Oh, well, there is one. Mortal Kombat 11.
This is true.
I did a video on it, and that was like,
Well, and Captain Marvel, you could stretch and say that, but I still say that that was mostly because Marvel movie and movie immediately before Endgame.
yeah, I would say so too. I don't know if the next one's going to perform nearly as well.
I don't think so.
Final question. It's a money question. How much for me to watch the first 2 seasons of My Hero Academia? So I calculated this last night. If you're asking me to watch an entire season of something, you're basically asking me to commit a full workday to it. And what I will say is basically, if you're asking me to watch a full season of something, or like 8 to 10 to like 12 episodes, you're asking me to commit a full day to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
a day's worth of wages is like $150 for me. So I'll knock it down to 120 though per season, because that's a lot of time investment, and I can afford it a little easier now than I could because I can always watch it while I'm writing. But at the same time, it's not going to be as easy to watch as it would otherwise. So
Mm-hmm.
there you go. That be the answer for any sort of thing like that in the future. So
There you go.
we still have to read Ma'ari as well. And then I wanted to
Oh,
do
yeah.
I want to do a video on BB Free issue 2 sometime this week, because I've got some ideas as how that's going to play out, and it'll be funny.
Y'all need to recommend me some more food challenges, hot sauces if need be. I realized why the hentai hot sauce didn't hit me as hard
Why's that?
because the last really hot sauce that I had was called The End. I think it's from Pepper Palace. 6 million Scoville rating.
Oof.
Once you've had that, nothing really comes close to it. But also, hentai hot sauce apparently, because it used a blend of really hot peppers, that brought down the Scoville rating.
Not to mention the honey and the apple,
Mm,
like,
yeah,
also helped with that
yeah.
too.
So the sweet heat of it kind of brought it down. So if y'all want if y'all want me to do something like Da Bomb or like any of the like hot one sauces or whatever, let me know, and then we'll make it a goal. I might do like another Twitter poll for it. I know I did one for hot sauces, and that's what somebody recommended hentai hot sauce for. So,
The End is like the one of the most infamous, though, from what I can
oh yeah,
remember.
oh yeah, it's yeah. I mean, they even have like T-shirts for it. Like I survived the end. Literally, it was just like enough for like a dipping sauce for a Wendy's spicy chicken nugget. So I was doing a double spice on that one, but I was like, hey, the sauce doesn't actually taste that bad. Oh God, why is my mouth burning? And then the following morning, I almost died. Casual reminder to everybody too: don't fucking drink a lot and then eat hot sauce. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's very not good. All right, folks. That is all the questions that we had for today. So, if you enjoyed the video, of course, throw us a like. That is always a help. Again, thank you again for helping us hit 1,000 subscribers. That's pretty fucking awesome. And yeah, I really can't think of much else to say. Hatman, any final words?
Podcast returns on Sunday because I am moving on Saturday. As in, I'm moving into a new abode, which you may or may not be able to see. The internet is supposedly going to be really good there, so I might even be able to play some video games with y'all.
There you go. About fucking time.
I know, right?
All right, folks. We do appreciate y'all for watching. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, and I better get better before Sunday.
Amen to that. We'll see you guys soon. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.